Guys, you know what I frustrate when we lose? We say it's just preseason, score doesn't matter, and what matters most is how these guys actually performed. Look, this is right, but don't you think player performance actually transforms into game results? Like, if players do well, then definitely game scores should look different, and apparently John Harbaugh saw a few things he really didn't like, and probably that's the reason the Giants immediately started making some pretty surprising roster moves. And there could be another one coming very soon. So, let me break down these roster moves, why the Giants are making them now, and what they could mean for this team heading into preseason week 2. What's up, Big Blue? Welcome to the NFL Playbook Giants. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Okay, so guys, let's start right where the Giants started making moves, and that's with the quarterback room. Because if you watch that Vikings game, you already know why this had to happen. Brandon Allen was rough. I mean, really rough. He threw 2 picks, one where he just straight up stared down Odell Beckham Jr. and played catch with a linebacker instead. That's not a small mistake. That's the kind of thing that makes a coaching staff start asking real questions about who they can trust behind Jaxson Dart. And look, I get it. It's preseason. Guys are still getting comfortable in a brand new scheme under Matt Nagy, and there are going to be growing pains for everybody in that quarterback room. But when your third-string quarterback looks like that against the Minnesota team that wasn't even playing its full starters the whole game, you can't just sit back and hope it fixes itself on its own. So, what did the Giants do about it? They went out and signed quarterback Jake Haener. Now, Haener himself isn't really the story here. He's a guy who's appeared in 8 career games, completed less than half his passes, and hasn't exactly wowed anybody at the NFL level yet. That's not really the point, though. The real story is that Brandon Allen's grip on that QB3 spot suddenly looks a whole lot shakier than it did a week ago. John Harbaugh doesn't seem like the type of coach who's willing to just hand you a job because you've been around the league for 10 years. He wants competition at every single spot, and he wants guys who can actually go out there and give you something if Jaxson Dart ever has to miss time for any reason. Now let's shift over to the running back room, because this might be the biggest storyline coming out of the whole week. You guys remember the hit Jaxson Dart took in the preseason opener? That wasn't just a normal football play. Tyrone Tracy Jr. completely missed a routine pass protection assignment, and it led to Dart getting drilled and having to head to the medical tent for evaluation. Harbaugh didn't sugarcoat it after the game either. He came out and basically said, that's a block that has to be made, no excuses, no explanations. And when your head coach is that direct about it publicly, in front of cameras and reporters, you know it stuck with him. So then boom, the very next business day, the Giants bring in Najee Harris for a visit. And look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you Tracy is losing his job tomorrow. That's not what this is about at all. But you'd be lying if you said the timing isn't interesting, because it happened almost immediately after that missed block. I think the bigger message here is that Harbaugh wants running backs he can actually trust in protection, guys who are going to keep Dart upright no matter what the situation calls for. Najee Harris has that reputation as a really sound pass protector throughout his career, and even coming off a serious Achilles injury, that's the kind of experience and reputation that gets a head coach's attention real quick. And the running back room needed some depth anyway, because right after that game, Dante Miller, the guy everybody calls Turbo, got waived with an injury designation after hurting his groin. That's a tough one for me, because a lot of people, myself included, really liked what Turbo Miller was doing in camp, and were hoping he'd carve out some kind of role this year. But that's football, guys. That's just how this business works sometimes. So now you've got a running back room that just lost a body unexpectedly, and that widens the whole conversation even more. It's not just about Tracy anymore. It's about whether the Giants want to add real competition behind Cam, Scatterbo, Devin, Singletary, and Tracy. Or maybe even carry 4 running backs, given how much Harbaugh and this staff clearly want to lean on the ground game this season. Now, sticking with the roster moves for a second, they also added linebacker Chandler Martin. Now, this guy has actual familiarity with Harbaugh from their time together in Baltimore, and he's known around the league as a really strong special teams player. On the surface, this might look like a small, forgettable move, but honestly, I think it fits the bigger pattern here perfectly. Harbaugh isn't just sitting there looking at the top of the roster and hoping things work out for the best. He's digging all the way down to the bottom of the depth chart asking, can we get better right here, right now, at every single position? That's 3 roster moves in a matter of days, and that tells you basically everything you need to know about how this coaching staff operates on a daily basis. And you know that ties directly into something else that happened this week that I think explains a lot about why all these moves are happening. During Monday's practice, rookie corner Colton Hood argued a call that went against him, and Harbaugh immediately got on him about it. Like, right there in the moment, no waiting around. But then afterward, they had a calm conversation on the sideline and hugged it out. And I actually really like that approach, because it shows you Harbaugh isn't trying to embarrass anybody in front of their teammates. He's trying to teach real accountability. Mistakes have consequences around here, whether that's Tracy missing a block, Allen struggling at quarterback, or a rookie corner losing his composure over a bad call. Nobody's getting comfortable under this staff, and honestly, that's probably a really good thing for a team trying to build a brand new identity from the ground up. Now let's talk about something a little more under the radar, but still worth watching closely, and that's what's happening at center. John Michael Schmitz came back from the concussion protocol, but here's the thing. Bryan Hudson was still getting a whole lot of those first-team reps, even with Schmitz cleared. And Hudson actually played pretty well in that Vikings game when he got his shot. So the question becomes, why keep splitting those reps even with Schmitz back and healthy again? I don't think this is some huge center controversy just yet, but it is another clear example of how this preseason opener is already shifting how the coaching staff is handing out opportunities across the roster. Guys are earning their chances in real time here, and nothing is just being handed out based on reputation. Alright, now let's get into some good news, because it's not all about guys being in trouble here. Malachi Fields might have completely changed the receiver depth chart with just one single performance. Think about it, 3 receptions, a contested touchdown grab in traffic, that huge catch radius, and the size to be a real legitimate red zone weapon for this offense. This kid moved the chains on 2 different plays and looked like one of the only 2 receivers on this entire roster who can consistently win those 50-50 balls, the other being a fully healthy Malik Nabers. So, the real question becomes, did one single preseason game just push Malachi Fields much closer to locking down that WR2 spot heading into the season? Because from what I saw on tape, he looked more than ready for that kind of role right now. And that flows right into another receiver who caught a whole lot of attention, Odell Beckham Jr. Now, his box score from that Vikings game really doesn't tell the whole story here. He only had 1 catch, but he was open like multiple times throughout that game. There was a busted coverage where he honestly should have walked into the end zone untouched, and another play where he clearly separated from his defender, but the football just didn't come his way in time. So here's the important follow-up to all of that. At the very next practice reports came out that Odell was getting significantly more first-team reps working with Jaxson Dart, and they even connected on a play that went over 40 yards downfield. That's a clean progression right there if you're a Giants fan. He shows what he can still do at this stage of his career. The coaching staff takes notice of it, and now he's earning more opportunities working with the starters heading into week 2. Okay, let's shift over to the defensive side of the ball real quick, because there are a couple of things worth keeping a close eye on. Darius Alexander is supposed to be a key piece of that defensive tackle room this season, and while he did come away with a sack in the opener, he also had some real struggles against the run once again. That's honestly been the concern with him for a while now, and it's clearly still there heading into these next few weeks. And then over in the secondary, guys like Deonte Banks and Colton Hood had some up-and-down moments throughout that game. Nothing disastrous by any means, but definitely uneven overall. If Harbaugh really is operating the way these first few rosters moves suggest he is. Don't be shocked at all if the defensive tackle room or the cornerback room becomes the very next area where the Giants look outside the current roster for some kind of upgrade. Now real quick, because I know you guys are wondering about this, let's touch on Malik Nabers. He took another really encouraging step forward, getting fully into team drills and catching every single target that came his way during 7-on-7 work. The Giants are still being smart and careful with him though, managing his reps closely and not rushing anything. That's all I'll say on that front for now, since we've already covered him plenty in previous videos. So, here's where things stand heading into that Miami matchup coming up this week. Watch closely how Brandon Allen and Jake Haener end up splitting reps at quarterback. Watch whether Tyrone Tracy Jr. can clean up his pass protection issues from that first game. See if Malachi Fields keeps building on that role he's clearly earning right now. Keep an eye on whether Odell Beckham Jr. continues getting those first-team opportunities with Dart. And keep watching that center situation closely with Bryan Hudson still getting reps. Because if there's another shaky performance from this offense or this defense against the Dolphins, I wouldn't be surprised at all if John Harbaugh goes right back to Joe Schoen and makes yet another roster move before cutdown day even arrives. This coaching staff clearly isn't waiting around for problems to fix themselves on their own, and that preseason opener already forced their hand once this week alone. Alright guys, that's going to do it for me today. Let me know down in the comments who you're most excited to watch against the Dolphins this weekend, and I'll catch you all in the next one.